Welcome to A Year of War and Peace. I'm your host, Brian E. Denton. A Year of War and Peace is a daily, year-long, chapter-by-chapter reading of and meditation on Leo Tolstoy's epic novel, War and Peace. In these videos and podcasts, you'll be treated to a free reading of one chapter per day of the novel, plus a reflective essay I've written individually tailored to that day's chapter. These readings are offered for free, though if you'd like to support me, you can do so in one of three ways. First, you could purchase my ebook, A Year of War and Peace. It features the entire novel, plus all of my reflective essays, and it's only $2.99 on Amazon.com. You could also become a patron at patreon.com/BrianEDenton. If you sign up there, you'll receive a sonnet once a month, plus a link to an ebook of my collected sonnets. Finally, if you like, you can make a one-time donation to my PayPal account. The email there is brianedenton@gmail.com. You can also use that email to contact me. I'd be happy to hear from you. Your support is greatly appreciated. Today's reading and reflection is on chapter 137. Christmas came, and except for the ceremonial mass, the solemn and wearisome Christmas congratulations from neighbors and servants, and the new dresses everyone put on, there were no special festivities. Though the calm frost of the 20 degrees, the dazzling sunshine by day, and the starlight of the winter nights seemed to call for some special celebration of the season. On the third day of Christmas week, after the midday dinner, all the inmates of the house dispersed to various rooms. It was the dullest time of day. Nicholas, who had been visiting some neighbors that morning, was asleep on the sitting-room sofa. The old count was resting in his study. Sonia sat in the drawing-room at the round table, copying a design from embroidery. The countess was playing patience. Nastasya Ivanovna, the buffoon, sat with a sad face at the window with two old ladies. Natasha came into the room, went up to Sonia, glanced at what she was doing, and then went up to her mother and stood without speaking. "Why are you wandering about like an outcast?" asked her mother. "What do you want?" "Him. I want him now, this minute. I want him," said Natasha, with glittering eyes and no sign of a smile. The countess lifted her head and looked attentively at her daughter. "Don't look at me, Mamma. Don't look. I shall cry directly." "Sit down with me a little," said the countess. "Mamma, I want him. Why should I be wasted like this, Mamma?" Her voice broke. Tears gushed from her eyes, and she turned quickly to hide them and left the room. She passed into the sitting room, stood there thinking a while, and then went into the maid's room. There an old maidservant was grumbling at a young girl who stood panting, having just run in through the cold serfs' quarters. "Stop playing, there's a time for everything," said the old woman. "Let her alone," said Natasha. "Go, Mavrushka, go." Having released Mavrushka, Natasha crossed the dancing hall and went into the vestibule. There an old footman and two young ones were playing cards. They broke off and rose as she entered. "What can I do with them?" thought Natasha. "Oh, Nikita, please go." Where can I send him? "Yes, go to the yard and fetch a fowl, please, a cock, and you, Misha, bring me some oats." "Just a few oats," said Misha, cheerfully and readily. Go quickly," the old man urged him. "And you, Theodore, get me a piece of chalk." On her way past the butler's pantry, she told them to set a samovar, though it was not at all time for the tea. Foka, the butler, was the most ill-tempered person in the house. Natasha liked to test her power over him. He distrusted the order and asked whether the samovar was really wanted. "Oh dear, what a young lady," said Foka, pretending to frown at Natasha. No one in the house sent people about or gave them as much trouble as Natasha did. She could not see people unconcernedly, but had to send them on some errand. She seemed to be trying whether any of them would get angry or sulky with her. But the serfs fulfilled no one's orders so readily as they did hers. "What can I do? Where can I go?" thought she, as she went slowly along the passage. "Nastasya Ivanovna, what sort of children shall I have?" she asked the buffoon, who was coming toward her in the woman's jacket. "Why, fleas, crickets, grasshoppers," answered the buffoon. Oh, Lord, it's always the same. Oh, where am I to go? What am I to do with myself?" And tapping with her heels, she ran quickly upstairs to see Vogel and his wife, who lived in the upper story. Two governesses were sitting with the Vogels at a table, on which were plates of raisins, walnuts, and almonds. The governesses were discussing whether it was cheaper to live in Moscow or in Odessa. Natasha sat down, listened to their talk with a serious and thoughtful air, and then got up again. "The island of Madagascar," she said. "Ma-da-ga-scar," she repeated, articulating each syllable distinctly, and not replying to Madame Schosch, who asked her what she was saying. She went out of the room. Her brother Petya was upstairs too. With the man in attendance on him, he was preparing fireworks to let off that night. "Petya, Petya," she called to him, "carry me downstairs." Petya ran up and offered her his back. She jumped on it, putting her arms around his neck, and he pranced along with her. "No, don't! The island of Madagascar," she said, and jumping off his back, she went downstairs. Having as it were reviewed her kingdom, tested her power, and made sure that everyone was submissive, but that all the same it was dull, Natasha betook herself to the ballroom, picked up her guitar, sat down in a dark corner behind a bookcase, and began to run her fingers over the strings and the bass, picking out a passage she recalled from an opera she had heard in Petersburg with Prince Andrew. What she drew from the guitar would have had no meaning for other listeners, but in her imagination a whole series of reminiscences arose from those sounds. She sat behind the bookcase with her eyes fixed on a streak of light escaping from the pantry door, and listened to herself and pondered. She was in a mood for brooding on the past. Sonia passed to the pantry with a glass in her hand. Natasha glanced at her, and at the crack in the pantry door, and it seemed to her that she remembered the light falling from that crack once before, and Sonia passing with a glass in her hand. Yes, it was exactly the same, thought Natasha. "Sonia, what is this?" she cried, twanging a thick string. "Oh, there you are," said Natasha with a start, and came near and listened. "I don't know, a storm?" she ventured timidly, afraid of being wrong. "There, that's just how she started, and just how she came up smiling timidly when all this happened before," thought Natasha. "And in just the same way. I thought there was something lacking in her. No, it's the chorus from the water carrier. Listen." And Natasha sang the air of the chorus so that Sonia should catch it. "Where were you going?" she asked. "To change the water in the glass. I'm just finishing the design." "You always find something to do, but I can't," said Natasha. "And where's Nicholas?" "Asleep, I think." "Sonia, go and wake him," said Natasha. "Tell him I want to come and sing." She sat a while, wondering what the meaning of it all having happened before could be. And without solving this problem, or at all regretting not having done so, she again passed in fancy to the time when she was with him, and he was looking at her with a lover's eye. "Ah, if only he would come quicker. I'm so afraid it will never be. And worst of all, I'm growing old, that's the thing. There won't be in me what there was before. But perhaps he'll come today. Will come immediately. Perhaps he has come and is sitting in the drawing room. Perhaps he came yesterday and I have forgotten it." She put down the guitar and went to the drawing room. All the domestic circle, tutors, governesses, and guests were already at the tea table. The servants stood round the table, but Prince Andrew was not there, and life was going on as before. "Ah, here she is," said the old count when he saw Natasha enter. "Well, sit down by me." But Natasha stayed by her mother and glanced around as if looking for something. "Mamma," she muttered, "give him to me. Give him, Mamma, quickly, quickly." And she again had difficulty in repressing her sobs. She sat down at the table and listened to the conversation between the elders and Nicholas, who had also come to the table. My God, the same faces, the same talk, Papa holding his cup and blowing in the same way, thought Natasha, feeling with horror, a sense of repulsion rising up in her for the whole household, because they were always the same. After tea, Nicholas, Sonia, and Natasha went to the sitting room, to their favorite corner, where their most intimate talks always began. All right, that concludes my reading of chapter 137. I'll now proceed to my reflection on the same. A Year of War and Peace, Day 137. Fleas, Crickets, and Grasshoppers. Sometimes knowing what you want doesn't make it any more likely that you'll get it. Some things just aren't meant to be. Things like living forever, avoiding taxes, or sex after marriage. The best response to confrontation with such impossibility is acceptance. Or you could pull in Natasha. Natasha, like all children at Christmas time, has a list of gifts that she wants. Unfortunately, her list consists of only one wish, and that wish is to be with Prince Andrew. As we learned in the previous chapter, however, Andrew has had to delay his return to Russia because while in Rome, his old war wound opened up again. Natasha's response to this setback isn't a virtuous one. It's actually quite petulant. She bandies about the house, ordering the poor serfs around on pointless errands and busy work. Her behavior is so asinine that by comparison, the buffoon, Nastasia Ivanovna, emerges as the most sensible character of the chapter. When Natasha asks him the impossible question of what her future children will be like, he responds, "Fleas, crickets, grasshoppers." When Natasha finally tires of bossing the serfs around, she retires to the ballroom, where she strums a guitar. The sounds produced, much like Proust's Madeline, launches her consciousness into an involuntary reverie of her lost love of Andrew. So she ends the chapter, much as she began it, in sobs. She didn't have to, though. Daily meditation. He is unreasonable who is grieved at the things which happen from necessity of nature. Epictetus, the Enchiridion. All right, that concludes my reading of and reflection on chapter 137 of War and Peace. I hope you liked it. Thanks so much for joining me today. Remember that if you'd like to support me, you can do so either by purchasing the ebook, A Year of War and Peace, becoming a patron at patreon.com, or making a one-time donation to PayPal. The links to all that are below. Tomorrow we will be reading and reflecting on chapter 138 of War and Peace. I hope you'll join me. Until then, take care of yourselves and others.